been said earlier, boots on the ground.
Rodgers on the move. End zone for Adams. He's got it. Touchdown.
They're going to have a defensive end out there.
3rd and 1. Rodgers under pressure again and just has to flip it, and it is going to be gone. Jones has 98 of them. Play fake here, though. Rodgers going for it all, looking to bring it open. He's got it. Lazard, gonna go. Touchdown. They're able to change.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be. Welcome to another awesome, jam-packed, fun, exciting episode of the Titletown Lounge. I am your host, Brandon, and go ahead and follow me on Twitter at Wisco_Brandon. Also, do not forget to follow the show wherever you have social media. I believe we're slowly getting into Instagram and TikTok, although I'm voting against it, and Rhino, who is on vacation right now, is fighting me against it. But I am joined here by Jacob Westendorf, the head honcho over there at Game On Wisconsin. You can find him on Twitter at Jacob Westendorf. You can also follow Game On Wisconsin at Game On WI, if I'm not mistaken. Very excited for you guys to be tuning in. If you are on the live feed, thank you guys so much for tuning in on this beautiful Sunday afternoon in Wisconsin. It's always an honor and privilege to be here talking about our favorite team, of course. As you can see on my chest and on my hat, talking about those Green Bay Packers. We're going to talk a lot about yesterday, what's to come, maybe with some potential cut guys. We're gonna discuss the game yesterday, and we're gonna have some fun with the uniforms that just came out yesterday. But before we do all of that, I do want to welcome Jacob to the show. Jacob, thank you so much for taking on the co-host with me today. Our other buddy Rhino is out in the Rocky Mountains right now on vacation, so wherever he may be out there, I hope he's having a great time. But Jacob, how you doing this morning?
Yeah, I want to clarify real quick. Rhino and I are not friends. I have no idea who that is, so I'm not sure where that idea came from. But no, it's good to be here. We're 2/3 of the way through the preseason. We're having one more preseason game, and then 1 week, and then it's opening day, Packers and Saints. So you can almost taste the beginning here.
and that's kind of what we're going to dive into now. People got to remember, and I am guilty of it too. I was talking about it yesterday with my son at Lambeau Field. There's only 3 preseason games, so this is kind of the game 2 is kind of what we're used to as game 3 is usually when a 4-game preseason is where you play your starters for maybe a half or 3/4. Matt LaFleur, 2 years going into 3 years into it, he doesn't play his starters in the preseason, and it kind of is what it is. Look, Aaron Rodgers won an MVP without pretty much an offseason, a shrink down training camp. I'm not opposed to him sitting the starters. Do want to dive right into what happened yesterday and start with you, Jacob. What did you take away from that game yesterday? Obviously, Green Bay loses that game yesterday. They're 0-2 in the preseason, 0-2 at Lambeau. Again, it really doesn't matter. We're just looking at players and what they did on the field. And what did you take away from that game yesterday?
Yeah, their status as Super Bowl contenders appears to be in jeopardy after losing 2 preseason games, I guess. So, no, I'm kidding. As far as what I took away, it was nice to see the offensive line play better. They were able to run the ball a lot better yesterday than they were the first game. It was not good. And, you're talking about there wasn't really a standout other than Royce Newman in that first game. And I thought he played well again yesterday. That first drive, every play the Packers ran was right behind Royce Newman and Ben Braden. And it really felt like a test of, okay, let's see if you can take this job from, whoever it is that you're competing with, kind of thing. And Newman, I think, acquitted himself very well. On a first watch, I'm waiting to do a rewatch here, but Newman might be a guy who gets that job and then never gives it back, kind of thing. I mean, he practiced with the ones all spring. He kind of took a back seat when training camp started, as they had last week Runyon Jr. and Lucas Patrick were your starters at the guard spots, but Newman jumped in, played well, played about 35 snaps yesterday. And I think he's somebody that could be in the conversation and may very well already be, looking to secure a job as the team's starting right guard, which to me is incredible because he's a 4th-round pick. Now, people complain all the time that the Packers don't play their rookies, and the Packers may be starting Josh Myers, Royce Newman, Eric Stokes and Amari Rodgers as prime. Well, I guess Amari's not really a starter if you want to look at it that way, but those 4 guys might be primary contributors. And that's not even including Kylan Hill, who we'll get to here in a minute. But yeah, that was my biggest takeaway yesterday, was that the guys up front, I thought Myers and Newman both looked good, but Newman especially as somebody who's trying to win a job.
Newman, yeah, and I'll talk about my experience yesterday. Newman just looks the part of a Green Bay offensive lineman.
Mm-hmm.
4th round selection out of Ole Miss, just has that look. Will do anything that's asked of him. He isn't flashy. He's not a very good looking guy, but he's going to go out there and he's going to, bang in the trenches. But for those that don't follow me on social media, and some of you that do, and I got a lot of good interaction with you guys yesterday, I took my son, my 12-year-old son, and my 10-year-old nephew to Lambeau Field for their very, very first time. We were funny. We were driving up, and for those that are from the Milwaukee area and they're driving up to Green Bay, 43 North, there isn't like a whole lot, to see. There's farms and, marshes, there's just nothing there. And my nephew's in the back and he goes, where are we going? Because it doesn't look like there's anywhere to play football in this area. And I'm just give it a minute, give it a little bit. So we get up, and then anybody that's drove up to Green Bay, that's not from Green Bay, when you're driving up anywhere from the state, there's nothing. Then all of a sudden you hit Green Bay and there's everything. And so the look on their faces driving in was just a lot of fun, and walking into Lambeau Field and seeing their faces. My son, he's a really good football player on a youth team right now. So seeing him into Lambeau Field for the very first time was special for me. He got to meet a bunch of different players. Shout out to Eric Stokes, and they're listeners, frequent listeners of the show, so they're listening right now more than likely. Darnell Savage came up as well, and Ravel Martin. It was actually really cool. Mark Murphy and Brian Gutekunst did as well. I mentioned to give Gutekunst a thumbs up on the offseason, and I think he enjoyed that a little bit. Yeah, I mean, you look at this team, and there's not a whole lot you could take away from the preseason. It is the preseason. Matt LaFleur doesn't play his starters. 32 guys were not suited up for the game. If you looked at the actives, I believe, now I didn't watch the game on TV. Obviously, I was in person. I think there was 4 receivers suited up from what I could count.
Total,
yeah, what I could count. So you knew you were going to get a lot of 12 personnel. It's kind of what we got. Kurt Benkert was the man of the show. I think he played like 98% of the game. I think he came out last drive or two of the game. And, he was 18 of 25 for 150 yards. He did have a nice touchdown to a friend of network, Jace Sternberger, for those that check out Game On Wisconsin. So I enjoyed it. It's always really cool. I've never sat at the front row of a Packer game. And again, if you guys follow me on social media, you saw that's where I was yesterday. It's a total different world. And what I mean by total different world is the size of the players, the speed in which they play, how the coaches interact on the sideline. If you've never been up close or you've never watched that part of the game, it's just I highly recommend it. It's probably super expensive. Shout out to my buddy Tom. He hooked me up with the tickets. But taking my son, who is a football player, like I mentioned, having him watch that game in person to see them, I can't tell you how many times he looked over. I mean, he said, "Dad, did you see how fast that guy is?" And, whether it's second or third stringers, these guys are professional athletes, and they're great at what they do. They're better at what they do than what I do, is what I always say. So it was a lot of fun. I'm going to say it right now, Jacob, and this might come back to bite me. Maybe not, but I really truly believe we're looking at potentially the best draft class maybe Green Bay has drafted, go 10, 20, 15 years away. Looking at Josh Myers up close and personal, I was about 20 feet from him. Absolute unit. I mean, the guy is built like a left tackle. He makes David Bakhtiari look small. I mean, he really does. Not that Bakhtiari's small. Josh Myers is an absolute unit. So watching him up close, he was only in for, I think, 1 or 2 drives. Eric Stokes, the speed on Eric Stokes on TV, on film versus in person, 2 different worlds. It's I can't explain it, how much different it is watching that guy play in person, and the cuts and he's got some stuff he's got to work on. He did have a nice pass breakup yesterday. I think he'll get it cleaned up. Kylan Hill, the real deal, in my opinion. Now, again, probably running back 3rd in the depth chart, but I think we're going to see a lot of him going forward as the season progresses. He's the real deal. He reminds me a lot of Aaron Jones. Real fast cuts, real quick with the ball. He caught a screen pass from Kurt yesterday and just within a flash was 10 yards down the field. He's super quick. My love affair. If you've listened to the show, we had Matt Freilich on after the draft class. I said it without even seeing him play or with a Green Bay uniform on. TJ Slayton was my favorite pick in this year's draft, and the guy delivered yesterday, had 3 tackles and a sack, and the sack was, if that guy delivers the inside pass rush and develops an inside pass rush with Kenny Clark, with the outside linebackers, forget about it. Forget about it. So I was really happy. That was just the rookie class that I was focusing on. Super impressed with what I saw from those guys.
Yeah, yesterday was the class of 2021 game is what my good friend Jake Morley dubbed it on the old internet. And I'm sure that's going to be what we're going to think of 20 years from now. But, you look at Stokes obviously plays early and then doesn't play after that, which I think is telling that they think he's going to contribute this year and early for that matter. Josh Myers and Royce Newman, we talked about. Amari Rodgers made a couple of plays yesterday. I think that's something we're going to see more of him when the regular season starts and they have that schemed up stuff and everything like that. And he's playing with Aaron Rodgers as opposed to Kurt Benkert. And then you look at some of the guys towards the back, and Kylan Hill has a touchdown in each of the first 2 games. This running back 3 battle is over. There is no battle. Yeah. It's Kylan Hill, AJ Dillon, and Aaron Jones. The only question is, do they keep a 4th guy? And really, I don't see a reason to do that right now. I know Patrick Taylor was kind of a darling through the offseason process, but he fumbled yesterday. He was the team's leading rusher. He had some nice moments, but he hasn't done anything to wow you. And Dexter Williams, I said this a million times. I think he had to rush for 1,000 yards this preseason in order to make the roster. So that's done. That's over with. And Kylan Hill is exciting. I think he's somebody that could potentially contribute to this Packers team this year. LaFleur wants 3 capable backs of carrying the rock. He says that all the time. So they have Jones, they have Dillon. If Hill can be that guy, you're going to find your way on the field at some point. It's just the law of averages. And one of Jones or Dillon is going to miss time at some point this season. That's just how it is. That's just how it works. So I look forward to seeing how that all works. I look forward to how they're going to, they have to cut down to 80 here by Tuesday. I don't think that's going to be overly difficult. I will say the one thing, or the storyline, if you will, that's emerging is, should the Packers keep 3 quarterbacks? And I don't know how you feel about this, Brandon. I guess we haven't really talked about it, but my answer is absolutely not. I don't see the purpose. If Kurt Benkert gets scooped up to be some other team's backup, so be it. The Packers starting quarterback is Aaron Rodgers. If he gets hurt, you have a high-level prospect with Jordan Love. If both of those guys are hurt and you have to play someone like Kurt Benkert anyways, you're in a lot of trouble. And I'm not saying that to be mean to Kurt Benkert or anything like that. It's just reality. Teams with third-string quarterbacks, you're not winning a whole lot of games. So, in my opinion, it doesn't really matter who that is. So I think the Packers should use that as a way to keep an extra roster spot, keep that extra corner, keep an extra lineman. They're probably keeping 6 receivers, so you got to find a way to get a roster spot that way. There are some people that think they could keep 7 receivers.
I might be one of those.
And that would be wild to me, but I don't think it's out of the question. And then you've got also, obviously, the idea that David Bakhtiari is going to miss early part of the season, potentially. You've got Jay Sternberger on a suspension list the early part of the season. So they're going to have some extra roster spots to play with, but I just don't see the purpose of wasting one. Last year, I get why. Last year, I understand why they did it. You were one nose swab away from missing half of your quarterbacks. You wanted as many people in your room that knew that system as possible. Yes, you are still kind of that way this year, but it is different with the presence of vaccinations, with the presence of just a better understanding of what COVID is, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think that the Packers are best off keeping Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love, cut Benkert, try and sneak him on the practice squad. If he doesn't, find a guy like Blake Bortles to throw on the practice squad. Just do whatever you got. I just don't think it matters that much to have that third quarterback. And I think we do this every year where we pick these darlings that we have in camp. And I get it. I'm just as guilty of that as anyone else. But the question of, oh my God, are they going to make the practice squad if we cut them? The answer almost every single time is yes, they're going to.
It's a good problem to have. It sucks that we have to have it because, like you said, Jacob, you fall in love with these guys. A guy that I wouldn't say I didn't care about, but a guy that I really wasn't keeping my eye on, for most part of camp and even going into last year, who had a great game yesterday, Malik Taylor. Watching again, seeing these guys in person, seeing them on the field, watching them run their routes, focusing on one position, versus the TV, which is, sometimes hard to do, was different yesterday for me. Malik Taylor was a guy, 4 catches, 66 yards, really good body control. I don't know if that's a guy that you can cut, that's going to, you could sneak on the practice squad. Same thing with Kurt. I think after the game yesterday, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And again, real quick with the Kurt Benkert, do we know the Jordan Love injury? Like, we don't have he says he's okay. Matt LaFleur says it's not serious, but if he doesn't play in the final preseason game, then I think at some point they're gonna make a decision of whether keeping Kirk on the active roster. The decisions are going to be tough. The receivers are stacked. Like, David Bakhtiari, not David Bakhtiari. Devontae Adams is on there. Randall Cobb. MVS.
Both of them, to be fair. Bakhtiari can make the team too.
So what are you going to do with St. Brown? What are you going to do with Devin Funchess? Devin Funchess had a really good week 1 preseason game.
And the St. Brown thing is interesting, right? Because he practiced this week and then didn't play yesterday. So that's one of those. Are they hiding him, trying to sneak him onto the practice squad for next year because they know he's not better this year? That whole thing is kind of odd to me, that he was able to practice. And to my knowledge, I was there Thursday. He didn't drop out with an injury. So unless he had an injury on Friday that we're not aware of, but he didn't play last week and he didn't play this week after practicing most of the week. So the St. Brown thing is odd. The Funchess thing, the injury complicates that a little bit. So I'm curious to see how the back end, obviously, those 5 guys are making the team, but then it's a question of 6 or 7. And right now, if you ask me, I think Malik Taylor is winning in that 6th receiver battle because he's doing the same things at receiver that Funchess was doing. He's healthy. That's a big one.
Yeah,
and
that's
he plays
big.
Special teams. And he's Dusty Evely asked this yesterday, being a good special teamer on the Packers special teams, is that really a good thing? I don't know. I guess it remains to be seen on that, but they need as many of those guys as they can get.
I know everybody's freaking out about the special teams. And yesterday there was rumblings, people booing yesterday. Look, like with the special teams, you're playing guys. I think once the cut down gets closer to the 53, I think you're going to see an improved special teams. Look, you got guys who were the best players on their college team, best players in their high school team. They're playing special teams. They've never played before. You're asking people to do something on special teams that we have not, that they haven't done before, running down and covering kicks or blocking on punt returns. There's things that, we haven't seen before. I think the special teams will improve. I think they will get better. I'm not overly worried about the special teams. I am, however, worried about J.K. Scott. I'm not sure he survives. I don't know who else they're going to out and get, but he
stinks.
Extremely inconsistent yesterday. I mean, you root for him. Shout out to J.K. He did sign for my nephew his shirt. So, I mean, it is what it is. But here's the thing that I want to ask you, Jacob, is the tight end room is another room, kind of like the receiver room, that's crowded. How many tight ends are you keeping?
Well, that's one of those extra roster spots you get because of Sternberger, and you kind of saw the career arc of Jay Sternberger so far yesterday. He has a drop on a 3rd down, tough play, but I think even Jace would tell you he's got to make that catch.
Very catchable.
He catches a touchdown. Doesn't have anything else of note. Does that mean he's not doing anything? I don't know. It's hard to tell from the TV copy.
Yeah.
How is the guy open and they're just not throwing him the ball? That kind of stuff. That stuff's hard to tell. That's why you can't just say, well, he only had 2 catches. Well, there's a couple reasons for that potentially. I don't know. I'll have to look and see a little bit later how that went. But in the tight end room, I've always kind of broken this up among what those guys do. So you have Robert Tonyan, who could be a budding star. I want to be a little reserved on that just because I'm not 100% sure yet. And I know that's not fair to Tonyan, obviously. I'm just not sure. You have Mercedes Lewis. Those guys are on the team, locks, and they're going to be your quote-unquote starters at tight end. Then you have Josiah DeGuara and Dominique Daphne. Those guys are essentially like H-backs. You can play them on the line of scrimmage. You can play them in the backfield. You can do some stuff like that. You have Mercedes Lewis, like I mentioned, who is essentially a 6th offensive lineman in the running game. He'll make a couple catches on some plays, play action, deception type stuff. Not going to be a big factor in the passing game. And then you've got Tonyan, obviously, down the field. And Sternberger, who could be a guy you could play in the slot and stretch the seam a little bit. That one rip from Jordan Love that everybody's all excited about from his first preseason game, that was kind of what Sternberger can do, is stretch that seam. Can he do that on a consistent basis? That's the question. I've been very open about the fact that I don't think they're going to cut Jay Sternberger, but listening to some of the coaches talk about him, and then you see some of the inconsistencies, I still don't think they will. but I don't think it's out of the question. Like if they cut him, it's not going to be one of those. I'm like, wow, why did they do that? Or how could they do that kind of thing? I still think Sternberger is very talented. I still think he has a chance to be a really good tight end in this league. He's just got to put some stuff together and make the plays that come to him. And I think he can do that, but I'm keeping 5. And I think Daphne can be somebody that can do some stuff on specials for you.
Oh, Rogers loves Daphne.
And that doesn't hurt your cause. Obviously he loves Robert Tunyon. You've got Mercedes and Josiah in there as well. And the other thing is it's nice to have depth at that H-back spot. You saw last year when DeGuara got hurt, the Packers were trying to find John Lovett, and then they ended up settling on Daphne. They kind of rotated some guys through that H-back tight end position throughout the course of the year when DeGuara got injured. So having somebody else that can do that, I think the Packers have depth at 2 positions that they really didn't have last year. Last year, the gadget jet sweep guy was Tyler Irvin, and now he's obviously not here, but they have Amari Rogers that can do that. They have Kylan Hill that can do that, I think. And then you have guys, obviously Aaron Jones can do that if you need him to as well. Maybe Randall Cobb in a pinch. You have some depth there. And then that H-back spot, like I mentioned, with DeGuara and Dominique Daphne. So I'm keeping 5, 4 to start, obviously, with Jace not going to be around for the first 2 weeks, but I still think he's just too talented. And we're a year removed. A year ago, Brian Gutekunst said this guy's a matchup problem. We feel like we can create issues with him in the passing game. That didn't come from nowhere. So at some point you have to just bet on him, hope he can put it together. And even if maybe it doesn't happen, Robert Tunyon didn't start making an impact in the passing game and as a player until the end of his 3rd season. This is Sternberger's 3rd season. So keep pushing, keep developing. And maybe that means early in the season, he's a healthy scratch. Now that would suck for obvious reasons, especially for me, but maybe that's something that happens. And then by the end of the year, he's getting better and he's ready to roll. And next year, Tunyon might not be here. Mercedes Lewis might retire. The Packers are going to have a different tight end room a season from now to where they may not have a quote unquote starter at a traditional tight end spot to where, maybe that's where some of that investment in Sternberger starts to pay off.
I'm a fan of Jay Sternberger. I loved him coming out of A&M. I think it's a guy that's going to develop. Look, everybody's got to understand, I know everybody wants immediate results and why isn't Jordan Love playing in week 2? And why did, he only, obviously got hurt in the first preseason game. You got to let these guys develop. And that's what Green Bay does better than really arguably any other team in the National Football League outside of that little bit of a run that New England had. This is what they do. And then they're the best at what they do. Jace was drafted for a reason. And I agree with you, Jacob. I think he's going to find himself on the 53. Now, what I do want to say, though, watching warm-ups yesterday, watching kind of them, team warm-ups and individual warm-ups, I think that we have a package. I shouldn't say we. Matt LaFleur, Nathaniel Hackett, Luke Getsky, I think they have a package for Josiah DeGuara that we haven't seen yet. Again, he went out
with it.
Yeah, I mean, I really do. Matt LaFleur, if there was any draft pick when Josiah was drafted, he was so excited for Josiah. And you look at, the Shanahan tree and guys that have come off the Shanahan, you saw Sean McVay, obviously Matt LaFleur, Kyle Shanahan, that H-back role is huge for their offense. So I think with Josiah, again, that's going to be a draft class that got super criticized, still kind of is, but it's starting to kind of form itself. I think A.J. Dillon's going to be, might be a hot take. A.J. Dillon by the end of the year will be a top 10 running back in the NFL. Top 10 running back in the NFL.
Whoa.
If A.J. Dillon, that's not a stretch. If A.J. Dillon can catch the ball consistently out of a running back position, good luck. Good luck to defenses. Watching him up close and in person, good luck. That's not a guy I want to tackle. I've been to Iraq and Afghanistan, and I would rather go back there than tackle A.J. Dillon in December in Green Bay. That's the reality. I'm good. I'm good. Watching that guy.
I've got a story for you about that then, because last year I was in the house for the Titans game, which was in December.
Yeah.
And it was the 4th and 1 where Dillon got the 30-yard touchdown. And you could actively see this point of attack coming where these guys are running this way and the DB's running this way. And it was a business decision. I'm going to dive at his ankles and hope I get him. He did not want any part. Dillon's a tough guy, man. He's big and he's a hard guy to bring down. And he's
a lot faster too. He's a lot faster than what people realize.
Oh, he's a really, people thought that he was just this big plotter because of his size. And I think we have some issues with confirmation bias. Say what you will about picking running backs early. And I'm certainly willing to listen to that conversation. But Dillon is somebody who, this is an athlete, and they said he can't catch the ball out of the backfield. Well, he's done it in his limited experience here in Green Bay, and I think they're going to have many opportunities, or he'll have more opportunities to do that here this season because he's going to have no choice. I mean, Jamal Williams was the team's primary second running back last year, and I love Jamal. Jamal was great to Game On Wisconsin, gave us plenty of time. I understand all that. The offense has a higher ceiling with A.J. Dillon as the team's second running back because he's a more explosive athlete. And I mean, I don't want to make the comparison, but it's going to happen anyways, so whatever. He's a more athletic by testing numbers version of Derrick Henry. And you've seen Derrick Henry the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
He's the guy that had everybody in Packers Nation shaking in their space boots.
Yeah.
Because, oh my God, they're going to have to play Derrick Henry. Shout out, by the way. I had an apology thread for that where all of you guys said the Packers couldn't beat the Titans, and I had you all apologize to me because I told you what the deal was going to be.
Derrick Henry's going to get 300 yards, 250 yards.
Under
whatever.
100. Under 100, by the way. That
99.
That particular night. Well, a lot of it came in garbage.
Yeah, it did. It did.
So
I remember that game because I had Henry on my fantasy football team, and I was like everybody else. I was like, man, this is going to be one of those weeks where I'm really mad, but I'm really happy at the end of the day. But you're right, like, Green Bay. Shout out to the Packers. But I'm telling you, like, maybe it is an extreme biased homer prediction, but watching the guy play, Aaron Jones is going to miss a few games, and I think that's not a hot take. It's just the how he has projected his first few years in the National Football League. He's going to miss a few games, and you're going to see A.J. Dillon come in, and the guy is, the way he catches that ball to the backfield and he turns upfield. I mean, I think top 10 isn't. I don't think that's crazy.
He's going to waste somebody on a screen pass this year too. Like,
it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad. And usually when you watch guys play and you're like, I could maybe get there one day. Like, I could see that happening. Watching him yesterday, and again, he only played, I think, the first 2 drives. I think I can see it. Just watching a guy, if you've watched football long enough, if you grew up with it and you watch it for fun and you turn on old games or, games that just happened, the other day on the NFL Network, and you watch them and you can tell when a player is going to be good. And I have that feeling with A.J. Dillon. I think the guy is going to be a tremendous addition, this year. And that 2020 draft is going to look a lot different a year from now. Again, Josiah DeGuara, we have, what do we see, a game and a half, a game and a quarter out of him. I think we're going to see a package that includes him that we have not seen yet, that nobody has seen yet outside of the Packers. So I think that's going to be an addition this year that people are sleeping on, including myself. He's coming off the ACL tear week 2 against the Vikings. And so it's going to be interesting to see what he says. Before we get into the next topic, any last impressions, any last thoughts on the preseason thus far from you?
Just that bit on Josiah too. The one thing to kind of keep in mind is something with him is his bugaboo is he's got to stay healthy. He played that first game and then he missed the next 2.
Yep.
Then he came back and his knee exploded. So hopefully he's able to stay healthy, but this could be, gosh, I can't remember who it was, but they were talking about Matt LaFleur's offense evolving into its final form. And I believe it was Matt Freilich and Brendan Dwierzinski on Final Dump, which you can hear every Friday on Game On Wisconsin, talking about that final form of, so that first year, obviously you've got some of the stuff, they're all learning the offense together. And then they add the A.J. Dillon, the big back to go in, and they add the H back with Josiah DeGuara, but they kind of miss some of that as A.J. is going through his rookie pains.
Yep.
Josiah doesn't play that much. And then this year you have that gadget slot receiver souped up. Like Tyler Ervin, with all due respect, is not the athlete Amari Rodgers is. The offense, as good as it was last year, could be even better this year. The biggest concern that you might have is along the interior, because last year, obviously, they had their left tackle, left guard, and center, you could have argued were all pro level players last year. Josh Myers is not going to be an all pro this season. That would be a legit, I shouldn't say he's not going to be, I'll say it. He's not going to be an all pro this season. That would be a very big surprise if he were an all pro in his rookie season. The other right guard spot, Lucas Patrick, played capably last year. Maybe they upgrade there. Maybe they don't. You're talking about a 4th round pick in Royce Newman or a 6th round pick in John Runyon as the guy who's going to be there. David Bakhtiari coming back is going to make this offensive line much stronger. If he can't do that to start the season, the early portion of the season could get a little interesting just because you've got those first couple games. You play TJ Watt early in October here. Detroit not really a pass rush to write home about, but New Orleans has some guys that can get after the quarterback. And then obviously San Francisco, Nick Bosa and the Bosa family exists solely to torture me, and he's back. So the 49ers have those guys that can get after the quarterback. I think the biggest thing that Green Bay needs to do this week and next week really is solidify who's going to be on that offensive line, start establishing that continuity, and work from there. Because last year they played a lot of musical chairs along the offensive line. I don't like it, but it worked well for them last year. Good for them. That's why I sit here and talk about this stuff like a moron, and Matt LaFleur is the head coach. There's certainly things that matter that way, but I think they need to solidify that group. And I have, the biggest thing I say every year, show me a good team that's not good up front. Owen Reese always says that to me. It resonates with me. Absolutely. Kansas City, I know their offensive line was a tire fire in the Super Bowl, but they were better for most of last year. Buffalo is good up front. Tampa Bay was very good up front. And obviously so was Green Bay. So you need to have a good offensive line group, especially when you have the reigning MVP playing quarterback. So solidify that group this week, and then let's get out of here and play some real football here in a couple of weeks.
That's another thing. I feel like I'm a Brian Gutekunst defender, but another thing that the guy never gets credit for is the offensive line, and the depth of the offensive line. Now, what is your, real quick before I would jump over to the other topic? When do you realistically expect David Bakhtiari to come back?
It's tough to say, obviously, because he hasn't. He's done some stuff on the side at practice. I think
he was doing it yesterday too, but nothing crazy.
Nothing too. It's just a matter of the doctor clearing him. He got hurt in December, so a 9-month recovery, late December, so basically January. A 9-month recovery, then's putting him in late September, early October. My guess is what they're going to do for some roster management purposes is keep him on the roster, put him on injured reserve after the roster is set. So they only have to keep him out for those 3 weeks and then designate him to return. So they're hoping then in that case that he can be back week 4, 5, 6, somewhere in that time frame. But that's going to be the concern. Like I mentioned, those first couple of weeks, Elton Jenkins is awesome.
Future Hall of Famer.
Great. Love him. Okay. Future Hall of Famer, Elton Jenkins. That's fine. He's great, but your offensive line is better when David Bakhtiari's in it.
Yeah.
No surprise there. And with Aaron Rodgers, or knock on wood, if there's an injury, obviously I hope not, but if Jordan Love has to play, knowing that, hey, I got 69 and 74 to protect my backside, that's a really good start. And you have a center who's a young guy playing in his first snaps. His first game is in the Louisiana Superdome. Not an easy task. There's going to be some kind of gaffe, mistake, something like that first week, because it's just to be expected. He's a rookie. So having some guys around him that can help that way, I think Bakhtiari is probably going to be back week 4, 5, 6, somewhere in the early to mid stages of October is my hope. But I hope to be pleasantly surprised and he's back there and ready week 1, because he's a great player. And, when the Packers, and we'll get into this a little bit with talking about the roster, but they are good at all the right places.
They are. And Brian Gutekunst, if there's a position that I do trust, his, evaluation, it has been offensive line. 100%. He's hit on, I don't want to say everyone, but, pretty darn close. And even when he cuts guys, I think that gets lost in the shuffle too. When he let Brian Bulaga go, we all got mad. Brian Bulaga went and got hurt. He let Corey Linsley go this past season, and I hope Corey Linsley's okay. I don't wish injuries on anybody. But we saw, Corey Linsley's now out. I don't know how for the time period, but he's hurt right now down there in where is it, Los Angeles now. So offensive line is huge. You watched the Chicago Bears game yesterday. 1 week, it wouldn't be a Titletown Lounge podcast if I didn't throw shade to the people down in Chicago. But a week ago Justin Fields was the savior. This week, the quarterback
preseason.
The quarterback can't. Yeah, it's only preseason. The quarterback can't get a half of a second to get back and throw the ball. The offensive line is atrocious in Chicago. So again, Green Bay Packers, myself included, be thankful for what we do have. Now, leading to the next topic, and it could be offensive line, could be coaching, quarterback, receiver, whatever you want. I want your Jacob, and if you're listening on the live feed, if you're on Twitter, if you're on Facebook, you're on YouTube, number one, thank you very much. Number two, I want you guys to drop in as well and leave some comments, and I'll read them here live. One reason, outside of, the obvious things, one reason the Green Bay Packers will win the Super Bowl. Now, I don't want to hear, Tom Brady dies or something, crazy. Obviously, those are obvious things. one reason, and think about it a little bit, dive into it on the live feed. One reason the Green Bay Packers will win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, you talk about positions that are the most important ones: passer, pass rusher, pass defender, pass protector. And the Packers have an elite player, at least one elite player at every single one of those positions. Passer, reigning MVP, obviously Aaron Rodgers. I don't have to speak to that for very long. Pass rushers, Zadarius Smith is there, and they have some depth there. I'm not going to call Preston Smith and Rashawn Gary elite players, but those are very good secondary pieces for your pass rush, and they both look like they're ready to roll here in 2021. Pass defender, Jair Alexander, one of the 3 best cornerbacks in all of football. You can tell me he's the best one. I'm willing to listen to that. Pass protector, Elton Jenkins, David Bakhtiari, those guys all matter. And when I talk about pass defenders, they have the complementary pieces around them as well. Darnell Savage, Adrian Amos, very good players. Pass rushers, I talked about Smith and Gary. I didn't even talk about Kenny Clark.
Mm-hmm.
Passer, he's got a really good group of weapons and coaching around him. I just think this roster is something, for years, towards the middle to end of the Mike McCarthy era, we always talked about how Aaron Rodgers and they had to carry this team. And this roster just wasn't very good around them. I don't think that's the case anymore. The question in the postseason, now I know it didn't happen last year, but Tom Brady has had this happen in his career countless times where he plays a B or C level game in a playoff game and the team still wins anyways. Can this Packers team towards the end of the McCarthy era, could they have won if Rodgers played a B or C level game? The answer was no. Can they now? If Rodgers goes out against, say they're playing Tampa in the NFC Championship again this year. God, I hope so. And he throws 2 picks and is just kind of meh. Can they win that game? I think they can. And that's the biggest thing is you can't, and the Chiefs saw this happen last year eventually. You just can't win where the game plan is every game the quarterback has to go out and play Superman. So Aaron Rodgers doesn't have to play Superman. He can. That's a great thing to have, obviously, that he can. But if he's Clark Kent for a couple of games, they can still win those games. So that's the biggest reason. I think their roster is very good. They're locked and loaded. If they have something that resembles relative health to that group, and they have depth at key positions, this roster is way too good for this team to not make a deep playoff run.
Yeah, it's tough to argue with any of those. Mine's pretty simple. Number one, I know I say one reason, but this is kind of not a football related. Is the drama, is the soap opera truly over in Green Bay? And we're going to find out, early on the season. Let's call it what it is. It's a very tough schedule throughout the course of the year. The middle of November, they're playing 4 road games in 5 weeks. So we're going to find out if that drama is truly over. Are we going to get any finger pointing? Are we going to get the passive aggressive post-game conference, with Aaron Rodgers? So that's kind of the thing that I'm curious to see looking at, upcoming season. But in order for them to win the Super Bowl, I think it's really simple. And I'm a trenches guy. For me, it's really, really easy, Jacob. And it's stopping the run. Like stopping the run. When you add in a guy like TJ Slayton, a 5th-round draft pick out of Florida, 330 pounds.
This was just an excuse for you to talk about TJ Slayton. That's
real
all
quick,
this segment was.
Real quick about TJ Slayton. He is not, I think he's listed at 6'4", if I'm not mistaken, maybe 6'3". He looks 6'6", and I'm not just saying that because I love TJ Slayton. He looks a lot bigger in person, height-wise. He's a big, he's 330. He looks 330. We saw yesterday the ability to have the inside pass rush. I don't know if Green Bay, outside of Kenny Clark, but now we've seen Kenny Clark, he's getting double, sometimes triple team. That the depth in the defensive line is going to be interesting. It's going to be important, in my opinion. We're seeing Kamal Martin possibly going to the outside. Obviously, the middle linebackers. We'll see about that. He did have a good game yesterday, though. But Oren Burks looks good, though. Like, I know we're getting off topic.
But he's one of them dudes. Oren Burks reminds me of, do you remember Josh Jones, the former second round pick?
God, yeah.
There's just, when his good plays happen,
they're flashy.
Like there are 2 plays. Well, there's one whole game in my head that sticks out with Josh Jones, and it's the one against Cincinnati, his first real game where he just dominates the field. And then there's another game, the game that got Mike McCarthy fired. Josh Jones got a sack in that game, and it's like he was kind of spying Josh Rosen, and then like he was shot out of a cannon, sacks the quarterback just like that. Burks, his good plays look the same way. And when you're an athlete like him, if the Packers could ever get him to stop thinking and start doing, maybe that never happens, but it's not crazy to think that a safety convert figures it out in his 4th year playing linebacker. Like the Packers have kept him around this long for a reason.
Do you think that we're getting way off topic, but I want to ask you, do you think that has anything to do with Joe Barry? Look, Joe Barry wasn't Matt LaFleur's first choice. We all know that. But Joe Barry specializes in a weakness that has been a weakness in Green Bay for a decade. Yeah. Inside linebacker. I mean, it really has. It's been the Achilles heel for most part. That and obviously interior defensive line. But you get the addition of TJ Slayton this year. You hope, Kinsley Keke takes that next step. Maybe they go out and add a veteran. I don't know yet. But the other thing would be the inside linebacker, and that kind of goes with stopping the run. If you free up these linebackers, can they make plays? Do you think now we're seeing a little bit of Oren Burks that we've never seen before? The Oren Burks that we're seeing right now is the Oren Burks we saw at Purdue. If you turn on his draft film, you turn on his draft highlights, that's what you're seeing right now in Green Bay. It's a guy that has been stuck on special teams. He's been given opportunities to be the starter, backups, and he just hasn't been able to be that guy. But now we're starting to see a different Oren Burks. Like you said, play, not think. And you're seeing a lot of that. He's blowing up that gap. He's playing. It's the intangibles, with him that we saw at Purdue. Do you credit Joe Barry? Because I think I tend to lean that way, that we haven't seen this from this guy. Then all of a sudden Joe Barry's here for one offseason, and now we're seeing it.
I think you're seeing it with a guy like Chris Barnes too, as Barnes has made a couple of kind of wow plays here early in camp too, and in the preseason, and he looked good in practice on Thursday as well. And I think Barnes is going to be the biggest beneficiary of Joe Barry being here, but Burks is somebody, I mean, it hasn't worked for as long as it has, and now you have a linebacker coach in here, essentially. That's not a coincidence. I don't think it's a coincidence, at least. We'll see how it works to the end of the season. Again, maybe it's just the fact that he's the best athlete on a field playing with guys that are going to be bagging groceries in a couple weeks. That's certainly possible, but it's something to keep you excited. And for him, keeps him on the team because he was far from a roster lock. I think the only locks at linebacker are Devondre Campbell and Chris Barnes. After that, you could tell me they kept any combination of Martin, Summers, Burks, and I'd be like, okay, that makes some sense. And we'll just kind of see what happens there. But I do give him some credit, at least early, and that's one of those positions. If the Packers improve, if Joe Barry's presence improves the inside linebacker play, I know a lot of people were worried about how he's done in previous stops. There's so much talent at the other positions to where we're so focused, especially now, on scheme. And I get it. It's interesting. It's fun, all that stuff. But at some point, players make plays. And there's things that have to be done outside of the scheme in order to win a championship. You look at the Aaron Rodgers to Jared Cook play. That wasn't some schemed up great play. It was two good players making it. Well, one great player, one good player making a great play. I think we've lost some focus in thinking about schemes and coaching because there's so much access to stuff like that, that it's ultimately the players are going to make those plays. And the scheme is just not going to matter that much because Ben Fennell says this all the time, and I love it. If there was a defensive scheme that stopped everything, everybody would run it. Well, there isn't one of those. So that's why nobody runs that scheme, because it doesn't exist. So to answer your question, circle all the way back. Yeah, I think Barry helps, and we'll see how much it does help. And if it does, it could be a boon for this Packers defense that, like you mentioned, they haven't had good linebacker play in the middle since Clay Matthews. And that was half of a season. I was
going to say for a handful of games. It's from what we've seen, it is early. Chris Barnes had a couple flash plays yesterday. That third and 1 at midfield yesterday. He flashed in the gap. And then obviously what we're seeing with Oren Burks. So yeah, for me, stop the run. Obviously that's the easy thing, turn a team into one-dimensional. But for Green Bay, it seems to always be the Achilles heel of this team, especially with the additions that they do have coming into the defensive line. Hopefully TJ Slayton is that guy. So let's get into something not so fun. In your opinion, we're going to flip the script here. One reason our Green Bay Packers will not win the Super Bowl. Now, obvious. Yeah. Somebody says Aaron Rodgers gets hurt. Okay. Yes, we know that. Something else, like something, dive into it a little bit more.
12's a choker. No, I'm kidding.
That's coming. That's coming. Just wait.
Please don't light my mentions on fire for saying that. Why they won't. Tampa Bay is really good. And last year they won a Super Bowl in their first year together where they basically weren't able to practice. This year, they're going to have not only the tangible effects of having everybody together, but like those intangible effects of now we've been together for an entire season. and they're really, really good. And Tom Brady is really, really good. And I hate saying that, but he is. He's really good. He's the most accomplished. At some point, it's not all luck that Brady has 7 titles. Like,
yeah,
there's a reason for that. It's not.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying those are his rings, because I hate that discussion. I hate it in basketball. I hate it in football. We don't really talk about it like that in baseball, but I hate it in those 2 sports. We're not going to do that. Tampa Bay is really good. As far as what the Packers could be, I mean, you're looking at some of the same stuff, right? Like, what if Kevin King is the starter all season because Stokes isn't ready? What if Stokes has to play and he's not ready to roll? What if Joe Barry's a disaster as a defensive coordinator? That's certainly possible.
Yeah.
What if the Smith brothers are still just kind of above average? Like, Z was above average last year and Preston was below average when both were great in 2019. What if Rashawn Gary doesn't take that step? I don't think these things are going to happen. Or the other thing you mentioned, I don't think this is going to be an issue, because we did talk about it. I don't think this is going to be an issue. But what if the offseason drama leaks in a little bit? You know, if the Packers start 2-2, 3-4, which I don't think that's going to happen. But if it does,
it's a tough schedule, though. It really is tough schedule.
It can be. It depends how you look at it. But yeah, I mean, it can be. You know, I think that I like the Packers' chances of starting 3-1 in their first 4 games. I'll say that much. But that's not this podcast. But if they struggle out the gate, or at some point, that's going to be the question. Oh my God, is the team focused on the fact that Aaron's not going to be here next year and all that good stuff? And I think Matt LaFleur is a really good coach. And I think Aaron Rodgers, like all that, Trey Wingo said this on Locked On Packers. All this stuff was happening last year, bubbling under the surface. We just didn't know about it. And the Packers should have played in and won a Super Bowl. But this year's different. It was public. People know all that stuff. Could that become a distraction? I don't know. I mean, there's really not a ton of tangible reasons why Green Bay can't win the Super Bowl. I really do think it's just Tampa Bay. And does some of that stuff just not happen that we think will? And, you know, you asked me not to talk about injuries. Obviously, if it's like, you know, if they get to the NFC Championship game and Ladarius Gunter is covering Mike Evans, then yeah, the Packers are in a little bit of trouble.
That was a good year.
It was one of those, like, we were just happy to be there kind of thing.
It was. Yeah. We knew
that's one of those, like, there are games where you can count it against somebody's resume, right? Like, I know you don't like LeBron, but like, I don't count the 2007 finals against him, because it was like, you're playing San Antonio, who would have won that series regardless of who the other dude was on the other side. So I don't count that against you, so to speak, because you're not the better team. That was one of those games where it was like, okay, Atlanta should have won the Super Bowl that year.
Yeah, they should have. Yeah.
And they blew it. Thank you, Kyle Shanahan. Shout out. Appreciate it. That's one of those games where the Packers were just happy to be there. And it was like, okay, how do they extend this? You're just hoping they extend a magic carpet ride for 2 more weeks. And you know what? To be honest with you, had they beaten Atlanta, I think New England would have kicked their ass 2 weeks later in the Super Bowl. And it would have just been like, well, that sucked. We finally get the Rodgers-Brady Super Bowl, and New England kicks the crap out of the Packers. But yeah, why is Green Bay not going to, well, why would they not win the Super Bowl?
You know, outside of the obvious, and obviously injuries are part of the game. And I'm going to be honest with you again, I'm a trenches guy, and I'm going on the other side of the ball, and it's the offensive line for me. And it's not so much injuries, you know, obviously that plays a part in it. If David Bakhtiari was the left tackle against Tampa Bay, I tend to think that the Packers win that game. I mean, I really do. They didn't play their best game. You know, obviously, you know, everybody on the offensive side could have played a little bit better in the first half, and everybody on the defense could have played a little bit better in the first half. But again, if David Bakhtiari does not go down with that ACL injury prior to the playoffs, I do think that Green Bay wins that Super Bowl, and especially wins that game against Tampa Bay. So for me, it's the offensive line, the trenches. You know, not necessarily injuries. You know, are we going to see Royce Newman at guard? How is, you know, is Billy Turner going to be the right tackle? You know, there's a lot of moving pieces right now. I mean, I think there was 3 centers yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. You know, is John Runyon Jr. going to be in the fold? You know, where are they going to fit in?
Let me just throw that out there.
He should be.
Playing college, he shouldn't be the center though.
No,
played there.
No, and I'm a big Josh Myers guy. I don't know if this is like stupid to say, like if he's too big to play center. You know, obviously he did it in Ohio State. I mean,
that's not stupid, but it is like a fair question, because you look at centers, they're kind of squatty. And I think it was Bakhtiari when he gave Myers some praise, and he basically said, like, when he met him, he's like, you're built like a tackle. So you're either a shitty athlete or what's your deal? Like, why do you play center when you're that big? It's not normal to have a center who's as tall as Josh Myers is. So it is interesting to see. It's one of those things that, like, when it reaches its final form, it's going to look really good, because Gutekunst has talked about it, how they want to build a big, intimidating offensive line. And when they have Bakhtiari, Jenkins, Myers, and then Turner at right tackle, they're going to have that. It's just kind of that guard spot. Runyon's a little squatty. If Newman is a little bit bigger, but still, he's not massive. If they do it to where it's like Kelly, Turner, and then Myers, Jenkins, Bakhtiari, then that's the biggest, most intimidating group. I just don't think Dennis Kelly's going to start.
Well, when I was watching the game yesterday and sitting and watching him, Josh Myers just makes everybody look small. When you watch his Ohio State highlights and you look at his, you put on his tape and you look at, he's 6'5", and it doesn't do it justice in person. Watching that guy stand next to David Bakhtiari, he just made him look small. He's a big dude. He's what I wrote down on my notes is absolute unit in capital letters. Like, he is a monster. And if he gets going, and if he is a productive center, and I hope that he is, and I think he will be, having him run at you at the second and third level, have fun. Good luck with AJ Dillon coming behind him. It should be a ton of fun, but they will not win the Super Bowl, in my opinion, if they cannot solidify that offensive line. If you, like you said, show me a good team without a good offensive line, anybody in the trenches, goes on the both side, other side of the ball with stopping the run and creating quarterback pressure. On the other side, can you run the ball? Can you physically run the ball and be successful at it? We saw week 1, they had 49 rush yards in that game against Houston. Yesterday was a little bit better. Patrick Taylor got going. We saw a little bit of, AJ Dillon. He was effective in the run game. But again, I think, Kylan Hill was pretty good yesterday too. But offensive line, number one, can you stay healthy? Number 2, who's going to be who? Where are they going to play? And number 3, can you run the ball? I'm not so much worried about Aaron Rodgers. Now, look, last year, everybody was crazy about Aaron Rodgers, and rightfully so. He had an MVP season. And a lot of it was, was he mad at Jordan Love that got, drafted? Is that why he went out and played good? No, he only got sacked 20 times last year. It's never happened in his career. He got hit barely throughout the season. He was healthy. And that's a big part of their success on the offensive side of the ball. Obviously, part of it is Aaron Rodgers getting rid of the ball on time and with the play where it's constructed. But for me, it's the offensive line, maintaining, the success that they've had. I think going forward, they're going to be just as good this year. I'm not too worried about it, even with David Bakhtiari. I think you're going to see Elton Jenkins probably slide over. If I'm not mistaken, they had Runyon Jr. and Royce Newman at practice last week. Is that correct?
Yep, that's
because
right.
you were there. Yeah. So, I mean, Josh Myers at the center, Billy Turner at right tackle. And then keep in mind, Mercedes Lewis is like a glorified tackle. Yeah. I mean, he's a tight end, but yeah, he's as good. He's as good as an offensive lineman. So, that's why I think they won't win, is if that doesn't, and none of those things happen in line. But, we got some people dropping comments. I'm going to read one real quick right here, because this one kind of ties into what Jacob was saying. They won't win the Super Bowl, in my mind, because of a seemingly incompetent front office that will do something to piss Rodgers off mid-season.
I just wonder what does that mean? And then I'm not discounting it. It's just, what does that mean? And what would that do? Would Rodgers just say, like, F it, I quit, I'm out of here? Or pissing him off. I mean, does that just solidify the fact that he's leaving it? That's going to be the annoying part of the season all year, is where everything that happens that maybe Rodgers doesn't agree with, if they punt on a 4th down when they maybe think they shouldn't, or they kick another field goal or something, like, yep, that's why 12's leaving at the end of the year, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Do they not trade for somebody? Because I'm very confident that they're going to add somebody before the season starts. And I think the trade deadline, they'll add somebody at the deadline as well, because they're already in cap hell for next year. They've already got a lot of stuff they got to figure out. So what's a little bit more to that cherry on top? And they have some money with that Rodgers restructure, obviously. So I'm curious to see what that means.
As our buddy Ken Ingalls puts it, keep kicking the can down the road, because that seems to be what they're going to be doing. Okay, so we talked a lot about, preseason, week 2, Packers lose against the Jets. We talked about the tough decisions, who's going to be on this team, who's not going to be on this team. Is Jordan Love healthy? Who's staying in at running back, receiver, all that good stuff. We talked about, in our opinions, the reason the Packers will or will not win the Super Bowl. A little bit of fun to end this show. And If you're watching on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, you can see that Jacob and I are sporting the new throwbacks. The Green Bay Packers decided to go with the 50s era throwback. We were all anticipating it happening earlier in August. It dragged out to, I think it was Thursday, which is funny because as everything, it leaked out like Thursday night. I think we were talking about in our group chat. I'm like, it looks like it's probably it. I'm a big fan of them. I'll let you go first, and I'm gonna get a photo thrown up here on the corner of the screen. Your thoughts on the new 1950s era throwback?
Yeah, I love them. The blue ones grew on me eventually. These didn't need to grow on me at all. I'm a big traditionalist. Green and yellow is the Packers colors. So anything they have, I want to be green and yellow, which is interesting because, I normally like black hats or basically stuff that makes me a little more slimming, I think is the reason for that. But
that's why I got this jacket.
I do dig the salute to service stuff. So that is a bit of an exception to that rule, but I love the green and yellow. I'm trying to figure out whose jersey I want as my throwback. It's tough because they're only going to wear it once. I do have it narrowed down a little bit. It's just contingent upon a couple different things as to why that is, but I got to keep that a secret because one of the things is something potentially big over at Game On Wisconsin, but I don't want to tell you guys until it's finalized.
I knew it. I knew it. Something like that.
I've got to keep it quiet for that reason, but I think that, there are candidates. Bakhtiari is certainly on that list. I'm kind of going with, do I want it to be somebody that I know will be on the team here beyond 2021? So that's why I don't want it to be Aaron Rodgers, just because I'm not sure. I don't want it to be Jordan Love, because if he stinks, then I don't want a jersey of a player who I don't think is very good. Devontae, again, kind of the same situation. Alexander, certainly I can't. I mean, there are candidates. I just need to narrow it down, but I love them. I was thrilled to see it. The hat, I wasn't sure how I would like this G and B because I'm a baseball guy too. So those interlock letters usually look good to me, but this is a football hat. And then actually the font on the thing that says Packers here. Yep. I love that.
I do too. It's so simple, but I love it.
So close to buying so much of that shit because of the font on, the hoodies and the long sleeve shirts and stuff. And I'm a hoodie guy. I'm a long sleeve shirt guy. So all that stuff is beautiful. And I'm going to end up spending way too much money on that crap one of these days. I just know it. Dusty Evely, leave me the hell alone.
I was there yesterday at the pro shop real quick. And I know you
spent less than $100 too, which
is also upsetting.
That's impressive.
For those that don't know, when the Bucks won the championship, and if you follow my other show, Brew City Lounge podcast, I cover the Bucks as well. I spent almost $700 on finals apparel. Real quick,
you spent like $300 when we went to Game 5.
Yes.
So you spent $1,000.
I bought a $90 crew neck sweater. The shirt was $90. It was the Giannis jersey crew neck. Real quick, shout out to David Bakhtiari. Again, longtime listener of the show. He was sporting the Freak shoes yesterday. That was pretty cool to see. I know he's a frequent flyer at the Pfizer Forum, going there for the Packers playoff games or the Bucks playoff games and regular season. He was wearing some Giannis's on his feet yesterday, so that was kind of cool to see. Real quick, I'm a huge fan of him. What I do want to get over is if you can see the picture on the top of the corner of the screen, and there was a lot of non-Packers that I was in a group chat with. They were like, it's yellow and green. That picture is super deceiving. It's really, and I don't know why. If it's the light, it drove me nuts. That I think it was that Thursday morning. I was going back and forth with people. I said, it's not it's not what it looks like. It's not, they kept saying Oregon Ducks. And I'm like, first off, this is a throwback to the 1953 Packers. Okay. The Oregon Ducks didn't have these uniforms in 1953. But it's not yellow. As you can see by our hats, it's a more of a, deep gold than anything. To me, they're the best looking uniform they have. I don't know. I'm an Acme guy. I'm a big on that navy blue and gold as well, but these are super clean. The only thing I will say about the hoodie, I'm with you. It has the lettering, for the Packers, that are on the hats, but it's all white.
Yeah, and I'm fat and slobby, so
it's all white.
Yeah,
And that's the only thing. Like, that's the only hoodie they have. They have the long sleeve GB shirt, which is cool. I like that.
They'll come out with something more as it gets closer, I think, though.
But yeah, I was a little bit disappointed when I went to the pro shop yesterday, and so it was the jerseys. Obviously, you could get the hats, and then it was that white hoodie and that long sleeve shirt, and that was kind of it. So, I don't want to say it's not disappointing. I love them. They're simple. It was pretty cool if you go to the pro shop, if you're able to go to the pro shop. They have an actual mannequin with the actual 1953 uniform next to the one that they're currently playing in this upcoming season. I wish they would have more games in which they played in the uniforms. I do like the gold helmet with the gray face mask. Gorgeous.
I've got it. NFC Championship game at home.
I mean, why is it though that why is it one game a year? I never understood that. Yeah, I know they're traditionalists. They love their, basic, uniform that they roll out, home and away. But with the Acme stuff too, man, I would rather buy Acme stuff, back when they played in those more than I would in regular green and gold.
Yeah, I would be okay if they did like, kind of like they do the Milwaukee package, 2 out of 8 home games. There you have, that's 1/4 of the schedule. I know it's only one more game, but then you do it that way. You still keep your regular, because I am a bit of a traditionalist as well. There's only 8 home games. Wear that green, your green with white numbers as much. But the Bears, they have those blue jerseys with the orange numbers. I think those are sharp, and I think they should wear those more often. I don't see the problem with adding another game or something like that. You know what? At the next shareholders meeting next year, I'll have a stock, and I'll make sure that I'm there to tell Mark Murphy, hey, what's the deal? Can we have it another game?
They're popular up in Green Bay. Obviously, that I feel like I saw more of the throwbacks, this year's throwbacks, than I saw regular jerseys yesterday, which is good to see. A lot of 23s. A lot.
They're on back order for a long time too.
Yeah,
not a long time, but they're on back.
Couple months.
And I was looking. Actually, you know what? I was looking the other night because Alexander. I was just because they were doing a 25% off sale, so I was like, oh, I'll check in and see if I can get one of those. And of course, the 50s collection is not eligible for.
Is that on the Pro Shop website, or is that on? Yeah, so if you check out Fanatics or NFL Shop, that might be the Pro Shop. If you're able to go there, they have plenty in stock of all sizes as of yesterday. But they only had
Classic is on back order until September 3rd. Happy birthday to me.
Yeah, they only had 12, 17, and 23 there yesterday in
the shop. Yep, that's the way it was Thursday too.
Yeah,
so
which is
get them either customized or something. Yeah, that was strange to me too. I thought they would have a few more, but maybe they didn't want a bunch of extra stuff on hand if it wasn't popular. So this way, it's like we just made it for these 3. There will be more there too. Like I said, I think eventually you'll get Z and Preston and some guys like that in there too.
I'm with you. I want to see how the season plays out with these contract extensions with 17 or 23, maybe 12 before I decide on a player. I just bought the Reggie White throwback, and I'm putting in my order for the Bart Starr throwback. So those 2 guys, I know I'm good to go. But I want to see what happens with all these pending free agents for the Green Bay Packers before I decide to shell out, money that I seem to throw out at pro shops like it's growing on a tree. With that being said, we are going to wrap up the show for today. If you guys are on the live stream, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Do not forget to subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcast. I greatly appreciate it. Before we do go, though, the show has ended. We talked about, the Packers off season, the drama. We talked about how they will win the Super Bowl, how they won't win the Super Bowl. We talked about the throwback jerseys. We talked about the preseason game yesterday. Jacob over at Game On Wisconsin, who has been, tremendous host for me, co-host for me today. A little bit of an announcement you guys got. We're going to play the video here in a second. I just want to put in a disclaimer. I went to Green Bay Distillery yesterday. Probably the best burger I've ever had. Probably the best burger I've ever had. I'm going to let you watch the video, then we're going to talk about it for a little bit. But go ahead and check this out.
September 19th at the Green Bay Distillery, right before the Green Bay Packers take on the Detroit Lions for the home opener. Game On Wisconsin is throwing Todd Varney a birthday party. Okay, not really. It's just an ironic coincidence, but we will be throwing a party at the Green Bay Distillery. Food, football, drinks, prizes, all kinds of stuff you can win. You want to check out our YouTube page. our Twitter page, and our other social media page, Game On Wisconsin, for details. Meet us at the Green Bay Distillery on September 19th. Come meet and greet all of your favorite Game On Wisconsin personalities and have a chance to win some really cool stuff. We hope to see you there.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be there. Like I said yesterday, we went there after the game, and the food was it came out way fast too, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Which isn't bad. Like, that's great. We ordered an appetizer. It was my son and my nephew. The appetizer came to the table, and like, I'm not even kidding you, 2 minutes later our food came out. The service there is phenomenal. The food, that curd burger is something unbelievable. My 12-year-old son and my 10-year-old nephew, and I texted this to Jacob, they were using slang words. I didn't know what they meant. Like, and I was like, what does that mean? They're like, no, it means it's like good. I'm like, well, yeah, okay, that works. It was absolutely phenomenal. So I'm looking forward to coming out there, meeting some of the guys that I interact with on Twitter, guys and gals. Super excited. September 19th. Highly recommend checking out. And I believe that's a Monday night game, correct?
It will be. So the Packers don't play that night. That'll be the night. If you guys are into Jake Owen, that event will be wrapped up before the Jake Owen concert. And it's not just Game On Wisconsin is hosting the party, but like I mentioned, it's open to anyone. And we're running from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. We'll have a live stream in the building. And if you tell them I sent you, you can get a $3 Miller Lite or a $4 mixed drink. I think it's their green and gold special is what they call it. It's a vodka and lemonade kind of thing. I'll get exact details on that for you guys. But shout out to Mike, the owner there, Hillary, the events coordinator. They've been really helpful with us getting in there, troubleshooting some stuff. It's our first go around with that. So we hope to see you guys there. And you have a chance to win some prizes. You know, we've got some autographed merchandise that we're going to give away. So you have a chance to come in and enter a raffle or a drawing for those kinds of things. Jump on in, say hi to us. And I know that says the event ends at 7:00, but if you're not into Jake Owen, then you're welcome to stick around and hang out with us for a while as well. But it's an open event. Tell your friends, tell your family. We hope to see you there. We're expecting quite a few people. And if you guys do that, it helps us to have the ability to do more stuff like this, which I think with Twitter, especially in the COVID climate that we've lived in for the last 2 years now, essentially. A year. I shouldn't say 2 years yet.
Feels like it, but yeah.
It feels like it, yeah. For as long as we've lived in this COVID climate, it's a chance for us to put a face to some Twitter avatars. So I've had the pleasure of meeting some of you guys in person, but I would like to have that opportunity to do that. So come hang out with us, help us out, and then we'll be able to do more stuff like this, down the road. So hope to see you guys there. Like I said, 3 to 7, September 19th, and we can watch some football and hang out and drink a couple beers too.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be up there. Have to check out the pro shop hours because, it wouldn't be a trip to Green Bay if I don't go over to the pro shop. And also go hungry to the Green Bay Distillery. Obviously you want to go out and meet all the guys and gals a part of the Game On Wisconsin, and you guys do tremendous work over there. Go hungry as well because the food there is amazing and you will not regret it. So, but shout out to Jacob. Thank you, Jacob, for hopping on while Rhino is out climbing the mountains. Again, you guys can follow Jake. You can follow Jacob on Twitter at Jacob Westendorf. Also follow Game On Wisconsin at Game On WI. They have a show every week, Monday through Friday, and they're all fun to listen to, all very informative. Great stuff going on over there. So check them out. Appreciate it, guys. Again, if you're on the live feed, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, thank you guys so much. Do not forget, please subscribe to the podcast wherever you may get your podcast. We are available on all platforms. You can follow me on Twitter at Wisco_Brandon, and also the podcast at Titletown Lounge, available wherever you have social media. That'll do it, guys. We'll talk to you guys next week, Sunday. Next week, Sunday, we will be on site at Coyotes Bar and Grill. We're having a big Packer kickoff season party there. Come out and join the guys of the Titletown Lounge. I don't know if Jacob, I think you might be coming. We're not putting you on the spot here, but we'll see yet. So we're going to have a whole bunch of people out there. Dollar Bush Lights, great food as well. So parties all around for Packer fans. Come out and join us next week. Go out to September 19th to the Green Bay Distillery. Join the Game On Wisconsin folks and have some fun. And as always, guys, go Packers. Have a great rest of your weekend, and we will talk to you guys soon.